Now you're looking for trouble condition.
Hello, everybody, and welcome to another episode of American Werewolves. My name is Jerry.
I am Brandon.
And we are talking today about a movie that came out back in January, a movie that I absolutely fell in love with. If you cannot tell already from our backgrounds, we're going to be reviewing and just talking about Lisa Frankenstein today.
Yes.
Lisa Frankenstein is a movie written by Diablo Cody, directed by Zelda Williams, starring Catherine Newton and Cole Sprouse, and it is it's something super refreshing, and we'll get into why a bit later. But if you have not heard of it, I'm just gonna read. I have it here. So I'm just going to read you what's on the back of the box.
Right on.
It's a coming-of-rage love story from acclaimed writer Diablo Cody, who wrote Jennifer's Body, about a misunderstood teenager and her high school crush who happens to be a handsome corpse. After a set of playfully horrific circumstances brings him back to life, the two embark on a murderous journey to find love, happiness, and a few missing body parts along the way. It's a play on Frankenstein. Lisa is a misunderstood, lonely high school senior who tends to this grave or this graveyard in kind of like near her backyard, or they don't really ever explain where it is. It's kind of just
it's somewhere around town.
Yeah.
It's like it's the area that they want to stay away from the most. It's got like, one of those like urban legend types.
Yeah, but she goes and she tends to the grave and she does like charcoal like grave drawings. And there's this one grave that she has a favorite of, and she tends to it all the time. And a strike of lightning hits the grave and he comes back to life. And it's kind of about that and giving him the parts that he's missing.
Yeah.
Now I can go on and on and on about this movie, so you go ahead and explain your kind of general thoughts about it.
Right. Well, first off, 2024 has already been kind of a stacked year for horror. I mean, we had like Late Night with the Devil and Abigail recently, which is what we talked about before this one. We got Maxine, Terrifier 3, Beetlejuice 2, and a Quiet Place prequel coming out. So, come Lisa Frankenstein, it's a small little weird movie that kind of gets usually buried underneath all these other movies in general. I didn't really hear much about this movie until you pretty much mentioned it to me. I maybe saw a poster at the movie theater once while I went, and I didn't even see a trailer. I wasn't even able to catch it in theaters. Like by the time I wanted to, it was already gone.
Yeah.
So I managed to catch it on streaming when it released, and this movie is very charming. It's kind of hard to explain. Like, it's the type of movie where I watch it and I'm like, I don't feel like movies like this are usually like my kind of thing. But like, I remember I told you the first time I watched it, I've seen it twice now. The first time I watched it, I wasn't too crazy about it. Mm-hmm. And then rewatching it again before this review, something about it kind of clicked. Now I will say this isn't like my movie of the year like it is for you, I believe, but it is one that I do love. I think it's really awesome. It has some flaws, but it is so damn charming that the flaws don't even matter, honestly.
Yeah.
Like any good movie. So I find this movie a lot of fun. Really, really, really fun. It's a nice homage to like, Heathers or, the Tim Burton aesthetic. A lot of other movies, like a lot of people throw out Heathers and Tim Burton, but it really does take inspiration from a lot of stuff in that time period while still doing its own thing, which I really love, honestly.
Yeah. As you mentioned, it's definitely so far my movie of the year. It's easily become probably top 10 just favorite movies of all time. It's a comfort film.
Yeah.
And
it's original.
Yeah,
It's very
it's
original. Like, we're living in a time where there's nothing but sequels, remakes, requels, whatever the hell. And then comes a little movie like this that just is like, I'm going to do my own thing.
yeah.
So that's always refreshing.
So if you've listened to Abigail, I had mentioned in our Abigail discussion that I don't really I don't purchase movies. I don't go back and watch movies because I like to experience new stories. There are, the only time I'll ever really go back and watch a film is if it's someone who hasn't seen the movie and I'm watching it with them, or if I just generally want to watch it again, which doesn't happen frequently. How many times have you seen like A Quiet Place?
I would say like two, three times maybe.
I've seen it the one time in theaters, and I thought it was a great movie. I've just never felt to go back and watch it again because
Never went back.
I'm just not somebody who goes back and rewatches movies. Um,
I can't. No, especially if I mean, I don't, I love A Quiet Place. I think it's really fun. It's not one I'm gonna always go to, but it is one that like every so often I'll be in the mood to probably pop it on or maybe even part two.
yeah, it was a great movie. I loved
Yeah.
it, but I'm just not somebody who really will sit down and rewatch a film because I
Do
would
you not have
rather.
like do you not have like that like a Halloween movie, like that one movie you have to watch every October or every Halloween?
Not necessarily. I
No?
wouldn't. I not that I can think. I mean,
I mean, there's that now.
and it's not even like
But
popping up, but like it's here. But yeah, just to like, I don't buy movies because I don't necessarily go back and watch them. But I
yeah.
bought it the second it came out on Blu-ray. I can count on my hands the amount of like Blu-rays that I own. But it's refreshing, as I mentioned earlier, in the sense
Yeah.
of we don't get movies like this anymore. It feels, like you said, very much like Heathers or Edward Scissorhands, kind of just like morphed together. It's this it feels like a movie that we would have gotten in the 80s, and we don't get fun, campy movies like this anymore.
Yeah.
It's you had mentioned that you didn't even get a chance to see it in theaters. It was only in theaters for like a month because it just didn't really perform well in the box office.
Yeah.
But there wasn't a ton of advertisement for it, and I do blame it on that. Now, I had heard about it the second that the writer strike ended. Catherine Newton had posted the trailer on her Instagram, and that's why I had heard about it. But I didn't really see any trailers for it beside that. So because of the writer strike, I think it wasn't advertised as much as it could have been,
Yeah.
and that definitely made it take a hit. But I do think
Yeah.
it will become a cult classic.
It seems like Diablo Cody's like horror comedies always like hit a rough patch. Like it was the same similar issue with Jennifer's Body. I think it maybe made more money, but it didn't do well like reception wise, and a lot of people just kind of steered clear from that movie for the longest time. They said it was awful. They were just really dogging on Diablo Cody's writing in general too. But then over the years, that became a cult hit too. And now I feel like Lisa Frankenstein's kind of facing a similar reaction through different circumstances.
Yeah. Yeah, because like you ask anybody now about Jennifer's Body, and they're gonna be like, "That movie is fun. It's great."
Yeah. No, when I watched it in theaters, everyone hated it.
Yeah, absolutely. Yeah.
Yeah.
But it's become Jennifer's Body is like I don't want to say universally loved, but it so many people love that movie now as opposed to when it had dropped. Madison Beer, her newest music video is a homage to
I saw
Jennifer's
that. I
Body.
just saw that recently. I
Yeah.
thought that was wild. Like it looked awesome.
So this will definitely be Lisa Frankenstein without a doubt.
Yeah.
But let's discuss kind of like what you enjoyed about it, maybe
Right?
what you didn't. If you haven't seen it, which turn this the fuck off and go
Yes.
watch it
This
because
is spoiler heavy.
yeah,
Super spoiler heavy.
if you haven't seen it, and I highly, highly, highly recommend you go watch it right now if you haven't. It's fun. It's funny. It's cinematography wise, like it's just a beautiful film.
It looks awesome.
The first shot of the second, I remember being in the theater and seeing the very first shot of the film and being like, I'm in for a treat here. Because
Yeah, that opening shot's awesome.
the first shot looks so much like a Tim Burton film, like an old Tim Burton film. And I saw that and I was like, this movie is going to be magic. And I was not wrong. So if you haven't seen it, go watch it right now and then
Yes.
come back to this.
Right. So, like I said before, this movie is super original. I'm always gonna give a movie props for just going for it, being original, not caring to like cater to like the typical Hollywood vibe or formula that people are looking for, because people get tired of the same thing. They want something different. And then of course when something different comes out, people bash on it at first, like always. Now it's kind of hard not to compare this one to Jennifer's Body, with it being Diablo Cody writing both films and her claiming that this actually takes place in the same universe, which, yes and no, not really. Doesn't feel the same. You don't have to watch both to like really get it, but they're both completely different vibes.
They also both take place in different time periods. Lisa
Yeah.
Frankenstein takes place in the 80s, Jennifer's Body is in the early 2000s, so there's not like, you're not going to see anything in either film that's going to be like, oh, that was from that movie. Like, they don't connect
Yeah.
in any way, shape, or form.
Yeah, and then on top of it, like they're both supernatural horror comedies, but Jennifer's Body felt a little more grounded, while this is like just kind of going for it, just going really over the top and having fun with it. Now I'm just gonna start off with the performance. For one, Catherine Newton, your girl. We've talked about her from time to time with different roles she's in, and we've always talked about how like she's never had that role that stood out, but we always like just found her really good.
She's always likable.
She just always stood out in every project she was in. But she had a lot of forgettable movies that she's done. Like she's been in horror since the beginning of her career with Paranormal Activity 4, and stuff like that. I think we were even talking about it, Abigail, last week, how like we completely forgot she was even in that movie.
Yep.
And then she also did films like Freaky, so she's familiar, and just Abigail, so she's familiar with this genre. But this is her movie through and through. She stands out. She is awesome in this. This was written for her. I cannot imagine anyone else in this role. I can't imagine anyone else opposite screen. Cole Sprouse, who plays the creature in this film, that she befriends, and yeah, she's just really awesome. She's really lovable. I want to see her do more roles like this. And I think, honestly, she's got a bright future ahead of her after this and after Abigail. She's having a really good year so far.
Yeah.
Yeah, but she's really awesome. She plays the weird goth girl in the 80s. We all knew one in high school. But there's a little something off about her. She's obsessed with death, and not in like the cute way where she just loves, like Death Cab for a Cutie or anything like that. She's a little off, and we'll get to why. And she's not the most popular girl in school. She really brings that vulnerability to the character, that fish out of water that we can follow through the story. And there's a lot of scenes in the beginning of the film where you see a lot of people kind of like don't talk to her. They don't really pay attention to her. Mm-hmm. She feels very isolated in this small town. She had a very tragic incident that happened with her mother, where an axe murderer came in and just butchered her in front of her eyes. So that really traumatized her. And then her father ended up remarrying almost immediately, and they moved to this other little town. She's got her stepsister, Taffy, who she would come off as like the typical, mean girl. But at the end of the day, she actually becomes one of the most likable characters throughout the entire film for me. I really like that character a lot. Yeah,
Taffy's the only good character in the film. Like, like genuinely good, like a good person. She's the only one. And I guess Lisa's dad.
Yeah, Lisa's dad's like, he's barely there.
He plays Lisa's dad is the dad, Mike and Nancy's dad from Stranger Things, and he plays the same fucking character.
No way, that's him.
You didn't realize?
Man. No, I didn't. I
Dude, it's
have
the same fucking
because I feel like
character.
he's barely popped up in the show in a while, so
He's
maybe
barely in the
that's why.
movie.
I know that too. He's just there, but I always found him funny. He like um whenever like they're having a conversation and it's the most like out of pocket conversation, he's just kind of reading his newspaper like, "Uh-huh, that's nice, honey." Like it's
Yeah.
just
See, now you're
it's
making
awesome.
me question it. But like I'm 95% certain that's him. Lisa Frankenstein.
Oh, wait, we got to look this up now. This is why we
Yeah.
should be doing research.
I know, we should have uh yeah, yeah, it's him.
Oh man.
Same dude, same character.
That's
Um
awesome.
but speaking of performances, Cole Sprouse
Yes.
absolutely kills it as well. And he has no lines until the end.
None. It's
And even
you
the
know,
end, it's
it's
like 3 lines. But he
yeah.
has 0 lines and he absolutely kills it.
Yeah. I mean, I know it sounds silly, but like it's really not easy to play a role without any dialogue and all you have to do is your body movement and like
Like
facial
grunts.
expressions to like yeah, just to develop your character.
Yeah, he
Um
does a phenomenal job.
yeah, no, I can imagine that being a lot of pressure, but thankfully he pulls it off and he has like some of the funniest moments throughout the movie,
Mm-hmm.
honestly. Like especially the more and more like he becomes human
Yeah,
and it's just really funny once he starts interacting with the outside world a little bit.
yeah. I was watching the like bonus content on the Blu-ray, um, and Diablo Cody was talking about how like some scenes that like initially this wasn't meant to be like a comedy necessarily, but funny things kept happening and the movie just turned into a comedy.
Yeah.
Um,
Which
like
great for her.
yeah,
She's been doing a lot of like serious movies ever since Jennifer's Body. Like she did Young Adult with Charlize Theron, which I thought was really good. But that was definitely more drama than anything.
mm-hmm.
And then she did Tully with Charlize Theron again, which was dark comedy drama, definitely more drama though. So it was like I felt like I think I heard her say something like she said it was very refreshing to kind of dive back into that world, just to do something silly and something fun.
Yeah. I think let's what are your pros and what are your cons?
One of the performances. Two, I love the aesthetic, the visuals, how the set design. It looks awesome. A lot of people, like the colors just really pop in a lot of the settings. It's a very dark and dreary movie, but it has a lot of style to it, which I think is really cool.
Mm-hmm.
It has that very like I just love the design of Lisa's house, honestly. Just like
Yeah.
that whole like 80s setup. It looks really, really cool. I like the cemetery. I think it's a really nice spot, especially and there's just a lot of awesome visuals to it, especially like that scene in the beginning at the party when she drinks the spiked alcohol
Yes.
and she starts having visuals. I thought that was really cool too.
My
Really creative way to show someone like hi.
one thing I love about that whole sequence is when she's leaving the room after the interaction with the her lab partner. I can't remember his name. Um,
It is. I got it right here. His name is Doug. Yeah, Doug.
yeah, Doug. So after that interaction with Doug and she's leaving the room, um, she steps like through a door and the camera's kind of like I don't know how to describe it. I'm not a director, but the camera she steps through a door and the camera pans as she's stepping through the door and then she immediately like from the house is in the graveyard again. And it's such like
Yeah.
a
Okay. The
beautiful
transition.
transition. Yeah.
Yeah. Yeah. Yeah. Damn.
Um
No, that was really nice. And oh man, I can't forget Carla Gugino playing the evil stepmother. I can
mhm.
never remember her name, but Janet. Yes,
Janet, yeah.
playing the evil. Damn it, Janet, the evil stepmother. Really, really awesome. She's been doing like a lot of these serious roles, like with the Fall of the House of Usher last year, and even with the Haunting of Hill House a few years back. So it was awesome to see her just camp it up in this.
Yeah.
Really, really cool. It felt like she was almost doing theater in a funny way. It was pretty awesome. There is, I will say this, it's a nitpick. It's one line that really stood out to me, but in like a really bad way, where she's introducing her character. It's introducing her character, and she has this line where she's like, "Oh, my family was so and so, and I had to grow up fast." Or I'm paraphrasing, really, and she's like, "That is why the way I am. That is why I am the way I am." And I just thought that was like a little in your nose of an explanation, but that's just a little nitpick on dialogue.
Okay.
But other than that, no, her lines were awesome. She had some really cool moments. She was the best Karen.
Yeah, I think out of even with Lisa and the creature, her character was the most like out there. Like I felt
Yeah,
like she was the most
would you
even
say
with
cartoonish?
which Cole Sprouse's character is called the creature. He doesn't actually have a name. His we know his last
He's
name
not
is
even
like
he's not even referred to as the creature until like the end credits when you read it.
no,
Honestly,
they don't refer to
yeah.
him as anything. We know because of her like graveyard charcoal like tracing. We know his last name is something with Stein, but his name isn't Frankenstein because her
I
charcoal says
never
Stein.
I never even caught that his last name was Stein.
If it's something Stein, I don't think it's Frankenstein because Frankenstein won't fit on the gravestone. But if you look at her like the charcoal tracing that she does, that she pinned it to the wall, and when he's like caked in mud and she can't tell who he is, he points at it and it's his name.
Frank Stein. That's what I'm calling him.
That could fucking be his name.
Could be his name.
Um,
We just discovered it first here.
um,
But yeah, she's awesome. I really like Carla Gugino. Um, I even like the over the topness of like the tanning bed being the source of like what helps the creature get body parts.
yeah.
There's a tanning bed. There's a tanning bed in their house that they use, and I mean, like we said already, spoiler alert. When the creature ends up killing Janet, the evil stepmother, he ends up cutting off her ear. They end up sewing it on, but he can't hear anything still, obviously. So they get the brilliant idea, let's put you in the tanning bed and we'll just electrocute you and then you'll be able to hear. And it works. Some friggin' how it works by the power of the 80s. That's when it started feeling like weird science a little bit.
Yeah, that's another great movie to
Yeah, that's
like
definitely,
compare it
this
to.
movie definitely pays homage to that.
Yeah, so like as they collect more body parts for him, they put him in the tanning bed, and the electricity of the tanning bed shocks him, and those body parts then become him, and they start to work for him. And
Yeah.
with every shock and every addition of like body parts, he becomes more human again. Now, my cons, I
I could imagine very few.
genuinely I don't have any. Like
If you don't even have a little nitpick that you're just like, I wish they did this instead. It doesn't even have to like take away from the movie for you, like just any little thing.
I would say the first, and this is just like a nitpick. I would say the first shock with the ear, he's immediately very much more human.
Yeah.
I would
He
say
definitely transitions more and more.
yeah, I would say that's my one thing. But I don't have actually where he's walking to get to drive the car and the old man is like, "Oh hell nah, who are you? You in my neighborhood." I don't know why the old guy got so upset.
Yeah, no, I felt like that was just like the people of the town though. Like, remember
Yeah,
like when Lisa's like getting chased for the first time by the creature and the neighbors are just so like
yeah,
neglecting her, not even paying attention. It's all these characters in this town are so ridiculous. At least the side characters, they're
yeah.
very, very um in their own world. But yeah, that guy was getting like so in his face out of nowhere. I guess like you could argue at the time it was like I wouldn't say the hippie era. That's more 50s, 60s.
I
But
would
I
have
guess, you know, the
said
goth.
Emma said it's like a small neighborhood, or it's like a suburban town. Everybody really knows everybody there. So he sees this guy who looks kind of weird in his neighborhood that
Yeah.
he's never seen before, and immediately he's like, "You don't belong here." And that's
Yeah.
probably what it just was. But
Yeah.
um,
But he got some fresh clothes after he killed him.
but other than that, I don't really have anything to complain about. I've seen the movie a few times now. It's just so much fun.
Yeah.
I
It's a
will
blast.
definitely watch it again and again and again. But I just love everything about it, from Catherine Newton's performance to Cole Sprouse's performance, the cinematography, the set design. Like you mentioned, the house is so out there. Like it's this huge, just pink
Yeah.
house that you would never actually see in real life, but the house looks like it's ripped from like a Tim Burton film and just
Yeah. Very,
colored the opposite thing that Tim Burton would have colored it. Um,
very
and
Edward Scissorhands.
yeah, and they Diablo and Zelda Williams wanted to make, in one the bonus content they had mentioned, they wanted every single aspect of the house to feel like Janet's home, like her personality in every single. They didn't want a single other person's personality in that house. All of it was supposed to be Janet. I love Taffy.
Oh, I love. There's one little thing I love. It's the phone shoe, the dad's phone shoe.
Oh yeah,
That it reminded me of like Juno with her little hamburger phone.
yeah.
Another Diablo Cody
Which
movie.
yeah,
That
Diablo Cody also
was
wrote that.
yeah. She loves these weird phones.
Yeah. The soundtrack is great because it's
Yes.
just like really great '80s music.
Yeah.
Um, yeah, everything about it is just great.
Yeah. It's
Now,
got a lot of great one-liners too.
hmm
Yeah, like I love the little "damn it, Janet" line that
yeah, yeah,
Lisa gives. Like, um, I'm not even a big Rocky Horror fan, but like that line still made me laugh pretty hard.
yeah. I knowing now about the dad being the dad from Stranger Things at the end. Um, so this is we don't have to say it. We don't really need to. At the end, where everybody's going around the house, and that little kid shows up on his bike, and Lisa's dad is standing behind the kid, and the little kid sees the fire, and he says, "Bitchin." Do you
Yeah,
think that was a nod to Stranger Things, or do you think because L's catchphrase, and I think season 3 is "bitchin"? Or do you think that that was just like a very common '80s saying? I don't know if I'm assuming it was because it was in Stranger
it
Things.
might be a common thing because I was saying it may be. Yeah, I would say it's more like a common '80s phrase.
Okay, because like the
Yeah,
kid
I think
shows
we're
up
just
on the
thinking it because
bike.
it's the same dude.
Well, it's the same guy, and it's a little
Yeah,
kid who shows up on a bike, and it says "bitchin," and
yeah.
I was like, it's
Uh,
just
Every kid in the '80s was on a bike. You know, there was nothing to
that's
do.
true.
There's no fucking social media, none of that crap. They had no choice but to be outside.
Yeah,
Um, Oh yeah, I was gonna say. Oh, this movie is also a very, very hard PG-13. Like it could be
yeah,
borderline rated R at points. It's kind of crazy what it gets away with. I'm not gonna lie. That scene when Lisa catches Taffy with her crush in bed together.
yeah,
Which, by the way, you want to hate Taffy at that moment, but then you also still feel bad for her, and it's like, damn it, dude.
yeah.
um when the creature comes in and starts chopping schlong and you just see that the shadow of it flying across. It was like so shocking that I couldn't stop laughing, but I was like, how is this PG-13?
Easily the best kill in the whole
Yeah,
movie.
he died
That's
instantly. I don't
that's
blame him.
scene is fucking hilarious. And the
Yeah.
song choice is just like everything about that scene is so good. Um
Yeah, Cole Sprouse actually made me laugh. Like the way he kind of just like picks up the trash can that it falls in and he just walks off like kind of like prideful. That was great.
um oh man, what was I gonna say?
Oh man. Now, Where was I gonna be at? Do you So you think this film is gonna? You think this will develop a cult following and all
Absolutely.
that stuff? Do you, with knowing that this takes place in the same universe that Jennifer's Body? I know it was kind of like a throwaway thing to say from Diablo Cody in like a few interviews,
Hmm.
but do you think this kind of opens up the opportunity for more like monsters horror comedy stories to take place in this universe? Like, do you think it'll get popular enough where maybe we can see more creatures or maybe even these characters kind of pop up again? And would you even want to?
Man, I hope so. Um, because, like I said, this is just such a refreshing film because it's been so long since we've gotten anything like this. Um,
Yeah.
and I had such a good time in the theater watching it. I think Emma and I saw it, I think like 2 or 3 days after, like in theaters again, like 2 or 3 days after we had seen it the first time.
Was it
Um,
packed? Like, was it like fairly full or was it pretty empty?
it wasn't like packed, but it was all right. It was so so.
It's a shame.
Yeah, kind of like medium. Um, but I hope it does. I hope we get more films like this because I miss having stupid comedies.
Yeah.
Like very just campy comedies, and not everything needs to
Yeah.
be so. Not everything needs to be pure cinema and like Oscar
Yeah.
worthy.
No.
Like
I
this
love me
was
an Oppenheimer, but like give me more of this.
yeah, like this is great. Like this is something I want to go back and watch time and time and time again because it's what, an hour 30.
Like an hour 40.
Like it's like I haven't watched Oppenheimer solely due to that runtime.
It's brutal,
I had to
but it's
watch.
worth it.
I've heard it's great, and I will
Yeah.
eventually sit down and
Very, very
watch it.
phenomenal.
But I just have to. I have to like commit. Like I have to be like, all right, this is 3 hours of my day. Like
Yeah.
the
And you
Irishman, I
can't do
had to
that
watch
thing
in
where you
two
break it up in
sittings.
sessions. You gotta sit through and watch the whole thing because I feel like if you got up and walked away, it would just not work.
Yeah, like
Or like took breaks.
I had to split up the Irishman. Great film,
Yeah, I
but
don't blame you on that one. Pacing is off.
because that was what, 4 hours,
3.5.
3.5. Okay.
Yeah. But yeah, first time I watched that definitely I had to break that up a little bit, you know. Like I took like maybe 20-minute breathers in between to like eat something.
Yeah.
But yeah, the pacing of that is off. And I will say this, a nitpick of mine with this movie, the pacing kind of gets a little sporadic halfway through this, at least towards the end. Sometimes it feels a little rushed. And then sometimes it feels like I don't know, it's kind of hard to describe. I just felt myself kind of like looking at my phone for a second. I'm like, oh crap, like no, focus. Um, which has happened on both viewings. So the pacing's kind of off for me there.
Hmm.
But really it still picks up fairly quickly again by the last half. And
Where does it
I want
start
to
to
ask you,
lose you?
it starts to lose me, I think, um I guess when like Taffy and like the dad are trying to figure out where Janet is and stuff like that.
That's one of the
There's
best
some great.
fucking scenes. I don't know what
I
you're
know, no,
talking
it's
about.
like a little after that I kind of start dozing off, and then when it's like, um, when it's like them trying to go, Taffy trying to go to school and Lisa trying to like snap her out of it and trying to like also like cover her own ass because she's the one responsible for the death. The pacing kind of like slows down a little there.
I don't know, man. That's when shit starts to hit the fan. Like,
Yeah, yeah. I think it hits the fan when like they get to the bedroom and they start, chopping. But that's when it picks up again for me all the way to the very end.
okay.
Like I said, the pacing does pick up again fairly quick, but it's just little moments where I'm like, all right.
Okay.
And I have a question, like, how do you feel about Lisa's transition to like just from someone obsessed with death to just full on like murderer? Like, I know this movie's a comedy. It is over the top. It's very 80s. It's of that time, or, replicating of that time. But do you feel like it worked? Because while I did enjoy those scenes, I felt like the transition itself just felt very sudden.
So, I think we have to look at Lisa as likable of a character as she is. Lisa is not a good person.
She's got issues.
Lisa is, as we look at Walter White and becoming Heisenberg,
Yeah.
it's the protagonist and we love them, but they're not a good individual.
Right.
Lisa mentions, in the car with the creature, when shit has hit the fan and shit has hit the fan, and they think that they're going to eventually be caught. She says, "This was your fault." She admits that killing Doug was her idea, but she says, "But you killed Janet, and I only mentioned to kill Doug because killing Janet felt good." And so her saying that killing Janet felt good shows that maybe Lisa was always,
She always had that in her.
yeah, she always had that killer in her,
Yeah.
but she just, nothing ever brought it out.
Yeah.
And so I don't think she does very quickly become that murderous person, but it's super quick and it doesn't bother me as much because of that one line later in the film where she says killing Janet felt good. And to me, I just see Lisa as that was always there in her, and that just brought it out.
Yeah, you know what? Maybe I guess I wasn't really paying too much attention to that one line in particular. Maybe that was the part where I felt like the pacing was like also kind of and I was kind of like not paying attention a little. But that does help. That does clarify a lot. Yeah, because I just remember thinking like, I felt like the first half of the movie would have at least tried to imply it in some way, shape, or form that it was like there. But then you could also look at movies like Heathers, where like you never really caught that with Winona Ryder's character in that film. And it wasn't until like she started killing with Christian Slater's character there that like, she's also kind of going along with it. But the difference is like by the end, she's realizing like, no, what we're doing is fucked up. This is wrong. We cannot keep doing this. Whereas Lisa's like, no, we're already too deep. We might as well keep going.
Yeah.
But yeah, that was just something I felt that was like one thing that just kind of didn't work too much for me, the transition. But who knows? Maybe if I watch it a third time, it may click a little better. But
Which,
as of right now, it's still a little off.
interesting, is when the trailer was. Another reason I really like this film is because coming out of it, it was an entirely different movie than I thought I was going into.
Right.
So I knew I was going into this like horror comedy just from the trailer, but the way the trailer was cut up, and I had only seen the trailer like maybe once or twice, but I thought the film was going to be, because there's a line in the trailer that says, if you can't find the perfect boyfriend, make him. And so I thought with that line that the film, and the trailer doesn't give away much, that it was going to be Lisa essentially grave robbing this guy and just becoming Victor Frankenstein and killing people to make parts to make her boyfriend. And then as the creature became more human, he was going to see that what they were doing was wrong and he has to stop Lisa. And that was what I thought the film was going to be. That's not it at all.
No, it's not. I mean, the trailer kind of makes it seem almost like it's kind of similar to Warm Bodies, that zombie movie with Nicholas Hoult from like years ago. It seems like it's going to be kind of almost in the vein of that, but this movie is very, very different.
Yeah.
It's very grim and also very campy and also very funny. And it's just a weird mishmash that I know it's not going to work for everybody. It has already proven that it doesn't work for everybody. But to me, despite the things I don't really like too much about it when it comes to Lisa's transition and some of the pacing and, some lines of dialogue that are a little too ridiculous, I still think this movie is definitely worth watching, and I think a lot more people need to watch this movie and give it a chance.
Yeah.
Like they really, really do.
Yeah.
Like I just want more movies like this. I want more weird movies like this.
Yeah, no, we definitely need a lot more like this. It was just there's no other way to say it. I've said it over. Oh yeah, like it says it right here. If you can't meet your perfect boyfriend, make him. I don't know if you can.
Oh wow,
Yeah.
I cannot.
Which isn't even the I would say even the thing on the back or the synopsis on the back where it says a misunderstood teenager and her high school crush who happens to be a handsome corpse. 80% of the movie, Lisa is not into the creature. He's just a friend to her. He loves her, but she just looks at him as like someone who she relates to and is a friend, and she doesn't.
Yeah, it's the reason she comes out of. It's the reason he comes out of the ground is because of her.
Yeah, she doesn't fall in love with him until like the last 15-20 minutes of the movie.
Yeah,
So even that's kind of like misleading, but yeah, no, more people definitely need to watch it. We need more films like this. I've said it over and over again during this discussion, but it's so fun. It's
really
fun movie. I may watch it when we get done with this. Like,
I already know you will.
it's just
We're gonna be like, Jerry, hop on Dead by Daylight. You're like, can't.
I can't. I'm busy. Yeah, I love it. It's a comfort movie for me. It's top 5 movies just of all time for me because it's
Nice.
something I can go back to. And when there is a film I can go back to over and over and over again, it's one of my favorites. Like Back to the Future is my favorite film of all time. Is a film that whenever it is on, I will watch it. La La Land, beautiful story, amazing cinematography. That is one of the Back to the Future, La La Land, Lisa Frankenstein, all films I own on Blu-ray. Those are all films that are on that list, and it's wild when you see a new film and you know that it makes that list, because like you ask people about their favorite movie and I feel like it's usually something that's like not so, I don't want to say not modern, but like something that's got a little age to it, you know?
Right. Timeless. Something timeless.
Yeah. Nobody's like, my favorite movie was, what came out last year?
Oppenheimer.
Nobody's like, my favorite movie of all time is Oppenheimer. Like, I'm sure there is somebody.
There's someone out there.
I'm sure there is, but it's not like a common answer. I feel like when you ask somebody what their favorite movie of all time is, it's something that's got some age to it. So I think especially this being a brand new film and being able to make that list like immediately, like the second I walked out of the theater, is just something super special. And maybe that's wrong. Maybe that's a wrong like opinion, and someone's like, my favorite movie came out 2 years ago. Like, but you know. Also, I just realized the title, I don't know if you can see it, but the I in Frankenstein is a little thread, like a needle and thread.
Like a,
and I think that's super fucking cool.
Yeah.
Yeah.
That, I feel like I know exactly also what scene that could be referring to.
I mean, technically all of them. Every time he gets
True that, actually, yeah. I was just saying, I just remember watching that scene like last night, and I was like, this is so fucking ridiculous. It's insane.
She was like, I remember seeing something with Diablo Cody, and she was like, that scene was non-negotiable. Like, it had to be in the film.
Right. So I could only imagine. Oh man, yeah. So I already know you give this movie a 10 out of 10 for
10
sure.
Out of 10. Easy. Nothing wrong with it. It's a fucking perfect movie to me. It's an absolute. Right. If I could give it a fucking 11 out of 10, like I love it.
What's stopping you?
Fucking nothing. It's my film. It's I love it so much. It's a perfect movie to me.
Yeah. For me, well, not perfect. Very charming. it's one I would definitely recommend to a select few of friends. I know if I suggest it to a majority of friends, they're going to be like, what the hell are you having me watch? But for me, it's an 8 out of 10. I think it's definitely, I think it's a good movie. I think it's a really great movie. I find it very charming. I very, very fun, very camping. Catherine Newton is amazing in this. Cole Sprouse is awesome. And Carla Gugino, really, really funny for the time she's on screen. And I feel bad. I don't know this actress's name. It's who plays Taffy.
Liza Soberano, I think is her last name.
Liza Soberano. Yeah.
Yeah.
Very, very good. I haven't seen her before, but I can see her definitely popping up in more after this for sure.
Yeah.
But yeah, that's going to be my score. Those are my thoughts on the film. Definitely go see this if you haven't. If you haven't and you're listening to the spoiler cast, like, I don't care. Like, if you feel like you heard the whole movie, just watch it anyway. Like, trust me. So worth it.
Yeah, if you've listened to this and you haven't seen the movie, first of all, I'm going to be so mad at you because we spoiled it and it's not going to have the same
Everything.
effect.
But even then, just watch it anyway.
Just watch it because
it's worth it.
You deserve to have this movie in your life. Everybody deserves to have this movie in their life.
Yeah.
If you go through life without ever seeing Lisa Frankenstein, you didn't live a happy life.
I won't go that far, but go check it out.
But yeah, check it out.
Yes, please
DM
check it out.
Tell us what you thought. Leave a comment.
Yes.
Tell us what you thought. If you didn't like it, don't leave a comment because we don't like liars.
Yes. Jerry is a very heavy Catherine Newton stan, especially as we went over in Abigail. I'm more Melissa Barrera, but that's just me. But that's going to be it for this review on American Werewolves. Please like and subscribe. Check us out. What'd you think of this movie? If you loved it, if you hate it, tell us why, either or. And also tell us down below what other movies you would like us to talk about on this channel. If it could be the most obscure ones. It could be an 80s one that probably gave you Lisa Frankenstein vibes. Please let us know what you think. Down below in the comments. Follow, like, subscribe. Follow us on our Instagram at American Werewolves, TikTok at American Werewolves. Once again, I am Brandon.
I'm Jerry.
Stay spooky.